that begins with the pasuk V'hoya Eikev Tishmun Eis Hamishpatim He'ele, and it will be the reward in the end when you will listen and heed the laws and the mitzvahs of the Torah. Ushmartem vasisam oisam, you will fulfill all the commandments. Then v'shomer Hashem le'elekecha l'choyes habris v'sachesed, Hashem will reward you with all his heavenly blessings, ashenish balavisecha, that he forswore to our ancestors, to Avraham, Yitzchok, Yaakov, that at the end of days the Jewish nation will have an abundance of good, and all the blessings in the world will be theirs. And Rashi comments on the language of the pasuk used here, V'hoya Eikev Tishmun. It will be a reward in the end when you will listen and heed the commandments of the Torah. What is this unusual lashon of Eikev, which also means a heel, which symbolizes the end of the body, the bottom of the body? And Rashi says, V'hoya Eikev Tishmun, if you will heed, you will hear in your heels, referring to the mitzvahs, kalos, easy and simple mitzvahs, sha'odam dosh ba'kevav, that a person treads on them with his heels. If you will heed even these commandments that are very light and simple in the eyes of people and very easily treaded upon, not kept in their meticulous fashion that they were meant to be, if even these mitzvahs will be kept in the proper manner, then you will merit all the abundance and the heavenly blessings of Hashem. And Marash Lita went on to explain what are some of these mitzvahs, these commandments, Sha'adam Dosh Ba'kevav, that he treads, that a person very easily treads with his heels, steps on them, does not keep them properly. Amarash Lita began with the mitzvah of Birchas Hamazon, grace after meals, which is a mitzvah aseh midoraisa, one of the 613 commandments of the Torah, to bench, to say grace after meals when a person has eaten bread. And this mitzvah is a very special and important mitzvah, as the Zohar HaKadosh brings on this week's parsha, that it is kedai for a person to eat the best foods in the world in order that he may say the Birchas Hamazon, the grace after meals, with simcha, with great happiness. Because when a person benches, says grace after meals with simcha, he brings upon himself a tremendous shefa, a tremendous blessing from Hashem, Baruch Nisa v'Gashmias, and it merits him great ashiras, wealth on this world and in the next. And unfortunately we see many people being mizalzel, taking very lightly this mitzvah of Birchas Hamazon and treading on it with their heels, benching very quickly by heart without looking in a siddur, a form of lip service, not concentrating on what they are saying. And they do not realize that they are being mafsid, they are losing a tremendous mitzvah, which would bring upon them great brachos, spiritually and materialistically. Marash Lita said that a person should be very meticulous to bench Birchas Hamazon, to say grace after meals from a siddur, from a bencher, not by heart. Otherwise, it is very easy and common to skip a complete bracha and to run from the second bracha into the third without realizing at all. And in Shulchan Aruch, in the Code of Jewish Law, it is mentioned that grace after meals should be done in a manner of derech eretz, with proper head covering and suitable clothes. And Marash Lita explained that it is very well understood how this comes into the Parshas HaShavua of Eikev Tishmun, of the mitzvahs that a person treads upon, because the next pasuk tells us that Hashem Yisborach will bless us b'pri bidmecha, pri ad masecha, with the fruits of your offspring and the land, degancha v'siroishcha v'yitzarecha, your wheat and your wine and oil, meaning an abundance of food which requires the brichas hamazon, the grace after meals. And as the pasuk later on in the parsha states explicitly the mitzvah brichas hamazon, v'yachalta v'savata, you shall eat and be satiated, uveirachtas Hashem lekecha, and you shall bless Hashem your God al haaretz hatoiva asher nasan lach, for the good land that he has given you. So brichas hamazon is actually mentioned in this week's parsha and is very properly understood to be included in the mitzvah Adam Dosh Ba'Kevav, and each and every person should see to improve himself in this mitzvah of brichas hamazon, to say grace after meals in a proper manner, with special concentration, thanking Hashem for all the blessings he has given us. And when a person says grace after meals, he shall put his whole concentration and undivided attention to this mitzvah. And Marash Shlita told the story that he had seen by a great Brasov Chassid in Eretz Yisrael when he came to his house Motzei Yom Kippur after the fast, and he was eating his Suda, and afterwards began to bench brichas hamazon with a tremendous hislavus and enthusiasm to Hashem, each word set out clearly with complete concentration. And at that time, the daughter of this Breslov Chassid had also come to visit her father and to wish him a good year, and a taxi had arrived to take her home. And in middle of brichas hamazon, of her father's benching, she wished her father a good year and waited for him to acknowledge her bracha, but he did not pick up his eyes from the siddur for 1 second and did not look her way at all, rather continued to bench with a tremendous hislavus, as if nobody was standing in the room at all. And she again called to her father and wished him a good year, waiting for him to acknowledge her, but there was no reaction whatsoever, until she said herself, "Father, please just acknowledge the fact that I am leaving." And that also had no effect upon him until he finished the brichas hamazon to the last word with complete devotion, and only then did he pick up his eyes and return the bracha to his daughter. Amra Shlita was present at that time and said that the impression that was made upon him then from a Erlich Yid, a servant of Hashem, doing the mitzvah brichas hamazon, was a lifelong impression, how a person must devote himself completely to the mitzvah he is doing, and knowing he is standing before Hashem. And Marash also related how there was a big tzaddik in the previous generation, in fact the 4th generation from the Breslev Rebbe. His name was Rav Nachman Zal, and it was necessary for him to eat dry bread and tea several times during the day, for he suffered from digestion problems, and it was important to him to eat dry bread and tea a few times a day. But the brichas hamazon, the grace after meals that he said after each meal, took him much longer than the meal itself. And the people who heard him bench with such a dveikus, with such a attachment and devotion to Hashem, would say that min hashamayim, from heaven, they caused that this tzaddik should have to eat and bench several times during the day in order that min hashamayim, in heaven, they should hear such a brichas hamazon, such a grace after meals, which was done with such a great devotion to Hashem. So at the time that we read the Parshas Eikev, which is the makor, the source of the mitzvah of brichas hamazon, it is proper for each and every one of us to strengthen ourselves in this mitzvah that people are dosh be'akevayim, which are treaded upon, and to strengthen ourselves to fulfill the mitzvah Birchas Hamazon in its proper way, and will bring upon ourselves great blessings, Baruchnis v'gashmias, and we will never lack anything with the help of Hashem Yisborach. Marash Lita also went on to mention that there's a tradition amongst Brestler Hasidim that the mitzvah Sa'adam Dosh Be'akevav also refer to the mitzvah of Simcha, of being happy. We know Chachamenu Agdoshim say Ein V'Hoya Elalosha in Simcha. When the word V'Hoya is mentioned, it refers to Simcha, and that is the V'Hoya Eikev Tishmun, that the Simcha should be heard in yourselves, in your homes, in your families, that should not be treaded upon. People take lightly the mitzvah of being happy, being besimcha. And we know that the Rebbe taught us mitzvah gedoyla liyos besimcha tamid. It is a great mitzvah to always be happy. A person must do all that in his power to make himself happy at all times. And as the Rebbe mentions in Likutei Moharan Chelik Aleph Simin Kuf Samach Tes, that the mitzvah simcha should reach till the akavayim, till the eikev, till the heels, and to bring a person to dance and to clap his hands from great simcha. Simcha is not only reserved for special occasions like a wedding or bar mitzvah or the such. Simcha is applicable each and every day, every hour, every minute. If necessary, a person should listen to happy music and recordings and the like to make himself happy, because when a person is happy, his mind is miyushav, his mind is able to be directed in the proper manner, to learn Torah, to daven to Hashem, to fulfill the mitzvahs, and it helps him to lead a much better and fulfilling life. Therefore, we should work upon ourselves to reach the midah of simcha, of being always happy in any way possible, and this gives fulfillment to all the other mitzvahs that a person merits to be mekayim. And one other point of mitzvahs that are dash be'akevav, that people tread upon, Marash Lita mentioned, is referred to in the pasuk Eis HaMishpatim Ha'ele, these laws and judgments. And the Rebbe explains in the Likutei Moharan Chelik Aleph Simin Tes Vav that judgment refers to the mishpat, the judgment that a person must do for himself in tefillah, in praying to Hashem, in his baitis, in private prayer. A person should always judge himself before Hashem, if he's acting in the proper manner, if his life is being led the way it should be. This should be a part of a person's daily routine, to mishpat himself, to judge himself, betfila, in prayer to Hashem, reviewing his deeds and telling Hashem all his shortcomings and all the difficulties he has in life, in particular with the Yetzer Hara that constantly rises up against him, because a person must always beg for divine assistance, Hashem's help, to be able to conquer the Yetzer Hara and to be a proper Jew the way Hashem Yisborach wants us to be. And this, unfortunately, is also a mitzvah that is dosh ba'akevav. People take it lightly. Are my prayers really heard in heaven? Do they want me to daven? Am I significant enough that Hashem Yisborach should hear my prayers? And of course the answer is yes. Hashem waits for the prayer of each and every person, whoever he may be, wherever he may be, on whatever level he may be. The greatest pleasure and enjoyment in heaven above is when a person who feels himself so far from Hashem opens his mouth and begins to pray and beg of Hashem for divine assistance. He begins to judge himself. Do I act in the proper manner? Am I fulfilling the Torah and the mitzvahs the way I should be? These prayers, these judgments cause heavenly pleasure that is unimaginable. And as Chachamenu Agdoshim teach us, Kishiyesh mishpat lamata, when there is judgment down here below, ein mishpat lamala, there is not judgment in heaven. when a person judges himself and does not wait that the heavenly court shall judge him, then he automatically annuls any harsh punishments and judgments against him. For in heaven they say that it is not necessary for us to judge him, he has judged himself already. So this is also one of the mitzvahs she'adam dosh ba'kevav, and that what we must see to improve ourselves, praying to Hashem each and every day, reviewing our acts, and asking Hashem to help us rectify them, and in the merit that we will seriously work to correct all these mitzvahs she'adam dosh ba'kevav, all these mitzvahs that are stepped upon and taken lightly. Hashem Yisbuch will surely help us to come to the goal that we created for, and to be true servants of Hashem. And in that schus, we will merit the speedily arrival of Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen v'amen.